Real Madrid's public backlash over La Liga's decision to stage Villarreal versus Barcelona in Miami has turned what might have been a marketing headline into a full-scale controversy that now threatens to swallow the league and colour the upcoming Clasico. At the centre of the complaint are two blunt claims: that moving a domestic fixture across the Atlantic undermines the home and away principle that gives competitions their competitive rhythm, and that key stakeholders were not properly consulted before the plan was rolled out. Real Madrid has taken the dispute beyond locker room, grumbling, and into official channels by sending a formal letter to the higher sports council, arguing that procedural and contractual protections for players and clubs were ignored. The club's captain and several first-team voices have framed the move not as an opportunity but as an affront, a match taken out of its context, with a home side stripped of familiar territory and a competition exposed to decisions driven first by commercial calculus and only second by sporting logic. On the pitch it looks simple. Villarreal lose a home fixture, their advantage evaporates. Off the pitch it is messier. Players point to a players' agreement and to expectations that domestic contests will remain anchored to the communities that sustain them. Thibaut Courtois and Dani Carvajal have made that anger plain, saying the Miami plan effectively adulterates the competition and privileges spectacle over fairness. Those words resonate because they come from men who contend week after week in that same competition, and because they translate a technical governance fight into language fans intuitively understand, right and wrong. Adding a combustible element to this mix are the comments made by Barcelona's president, which many have summarized as an allegation of outside influence on officiating, the so-called a white hand. Whether intended as strategy or as protest, those remarks have already widened the rift, suggesting that disputes over refereeing and disputes over fixture relocation are now collapsing into a single narrative of mistrust. With the Bernabeu Clasico looming mere days after the Miami announcement, every incident on the field will likely be overread by commentators and supporters alike, and the match itself risks becoming a referendum not just on form or tactics, but on the shape and future of Spanish football. Practicalities matter too. The logistics of moving a fixture to the United States carry costs and travel burdens. They reshuffle preparation windows and could impact performance. For a club like Villarreal, whose identity is tied to a particular stadium and community, being told to play a marquee fixture abroad is a serious loss of sporting context. The formal complaint to Spain's Sports Authority opens a legal and regulatory front. If the CSD decides to probe, La Liga may be compelled to disclose how the decision was made, who voted, and which agreements were consulted or ignored. That process could either validate La Liga's approach as lawful and carefully considered, or expose it as a unilateral commercial gambit imposed from the top. Either result carries consequences. Validation would clear the way for more overseas fixtures and a new business model for Spanish football. A rebuke could force a rollback and set a precedent that protects the competitive fabric of domestic leagues. Beyond the immediate legalities, the debate poses a bigger cultural question. Can a domestic competition maintain its sporting soul while scaling as a global entertainment product? Fans worry that turning fixtures into exportable events strips them of meaning. Administrators argue that reaching new markets is essential for financial survival and global relevance. The next week will tell us which pressure wins. Expect explosive rhetoric, pointed press conferences, and a Clasico where every decision will be passed for hidden motives. As the drama unfolds, the core choice facing La Liga is now plain: pursue a rapid expansion that treats fixtures as movable assets, or reaffirm the binding agreements and traditions that underpin fair competition. The decision will shape not just one season, but how Spanish football is run, experienced and remembered. What happens next will matter to clubs, players and supporters alike, and it will determine whether football's most storied rivalry ends the year as a sporting spectacle or as the flashpoint of a broader fight over the game's future.